And AEW, there's not too terribly much, but people have been talking about and speculating on like Private Party, and pretty much it's known like they're going to leave AEW and go to NXT. WWE has interest in them. They're just benched. There's no explanation why. AEW's not using them. They're going to explore other options for sure. We know that they're tight with the Hardys and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, I think they'd fit in with NXT, man. And sources spoken to implied that Private Party's AEW contracts actually may expire at different times. So hopefully Tony's nice enough to release the one. I don't see why he would do that. And WWE might just around and bring them in individually as well. They might look at both these guys and go, you're not partners anymore. Who knows? But it just seems like they're being benched. It's like a Lucha Bros thing. They're benched. They're up at different times, and they're not frozen, even though some people speculated they were because of an injury. And because of an injury, one of them's contract is up at a different time. Like Mark Quinn was out for a long time, right? So I think his partner is going to be up first. So maybe WWE just pushes them separately. Who knows? If not, if WWE doesn't want them, then TNA, I would scoop them up right away, man. They breathe new life into that tag division, and they have a lot more to offer than AEW's done with them. I think there's more news on that. So Fightful says that the Hurt Syndicate has reportedly been giving Private Party advice on how to improve their careers, including spending more time at the gym. Well, obviously, this is reportedly has been seen as very helpful for Private Party. This reportedly has been seen as very helpful. Okay, so someone at Private Party told you this. And yeah, obviously stay in the gym, especially when you're being benched. Come back looking bigger and badder and better than ever, like Mike Santana. And then you guys see what happens there, right? We talked earlier about AEW's book. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk are heavily covered in the new AEW book, according to Fightful Select. So somebody got like early access to it, and there's like a page covering Punk. We're going to see like we're going to see how this book, like, is it just historic? Like if they have modern quotes from everybody explaining what the first years of AEW were like, but they don't talk to Rhodes or Punk at all, then it's just their history. Even if they go back and say, and I called this out, what people are going to do when this book comes out, they're going to find my tweet where I was like, bro, they're not going to talk to Punk or Rhodes post AEW about it's just going to be like AEW washing their own history, which is fine, but Sicko's got to call it out. It's just that simple. They need to glaze both sides of it. They better talk about the fight and backstage that went down and talk about it from like how maybe what they could have done differently, or if they don't want it to be considered like a WWE thing. It's like the same way we call out WWE for just like creating this narrative of what happened. If this book only glazes Punk and Rhodes, or it only buries them, then it's not doing justice. And that's what my call out was for. Unless if there's interviews from like Moxley from this year, him speaking retrospectively, or like, let's say they started this book 2 years ago, and let's say they have interviews from 2024 or 2023 of Moxley talking about the first days of AEW, but they don't have quotes like that from Rhodes and shit, which why would they? Then it's good. It's just horseshit. It's just them creating their own narrative of AEW, good, bad, or indifferent. And so that's what I pointed out, and it's going to be that. They're saying they're heavily covered in the book. Of course they are. You can't cover this company without talking about Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. You can't. That's the only success they've seen is when those two guys were in the company. So everything else will be them like what? Praising the times they're not there. Do they get candid and say, yeah, the company, like if they sit there and in this book say, and they don't admit after Punk left the company, our business fucking tanked and everything's shitty, but we're more peaceful backstage. And if they don't try and get it over that way, then it's a fake, worked, phony book. It doesn't matter what they say. They could tongue Punk's ass cheeks the whole book. But if they don't be honest about like, hey man, overall, like we lost like 50% of our fucking viewership within a year over year after he left or whatever, then it's just creating their own bullshit narrative. And that's what this book's going to be. And I called that out. And if people want to go ahead, pull my, you know what I mean? Go ahead and twist what I said take it out of context, that's fine. Because I know that's what's gonna happen because they are covered in the book to some degree. But if you didn't interview them now, or if you don't have Tony Khan saying, yes, our business drastically, the ratings went downhill, but the locker room is less tragic or whatever the fuck, or if whoever covers this book, if they just act like when Punk left, it was triumphant and they had all these, the business, this, and that, if they don't really talk about it, then it's just bullshit AEW Tony McCon stuff, Vince McMahon shit, you know? And that's what it's going to be. I already know. I would love to read this book. Maybe we could review it or something. Some people are dropping pages. Like, I've seen tweets of people being like, see, they're talking about CM Punk. Okay, there's a page of Punk stuff. Are they going to talk about what it was like when he left, when he was backstage, talk about how bad it was back there and how toxic and shit it was? Or are they going to lie and say it was beautiful when he was back there? Either way, they got to talk about after that as well. And if they're not honest about the shit, then it's just, and I don't blame them. I'm not mad at that. Carnies are going to carny. Let WWE make a hit piece documentary on the Ultimate Warrior. That's their fucking prerogative. I don't care. What I'm saying, though, is like, keep the same energy. I certainly do and will. I said Vince was spread too thin. I say Tony Khan spread too thin. It's the same fucking thing. That's why the creative's bad. That's why Vince's creative was bad. If they are going to whitewash their history, I guess, for lack of a better term, then, and you're going to call WWE out for doing the same thing. Dave still cries about that, for instance, like a Dave Meltzer. He still cries about WWE doing that shit to this day. And the 93,000, of course, Hogan Andre wasn't that many. You got to call AEW out for doing the same thing. And hopefully the book just stays totally honest. I mean, that'd be best case scenario for everybody. Because, yeah, maybe it would... maybe it'll change some sickos' minds. Maybe they'll be like, well, okay, yeah, the business isn't doing so. But they're not going to say that. They're not going to say it's not doing so hot after these two guys left. It's just, oh, they cover them heavily. Okay, fuck does that mean? There's a few pages on how great it was when they came in the biz. Sweet. What about the shit that happened backstage that drove Rhodes out of there? Why was Brandy and Cody Rhodes so offended that the Rhodes family packed up and got the fuck out of Dodge? Other than fucking Dustin, I guess, right? But he's not going to get a like Tony's. He's not going to go back to, what is Dustin going to do? Go back to WWE and get the kind of money and freedom he has with Tony Khan? That's never going to happen in his career again. So makes sense why he stayed. But, you know, like, what offended Brandy and them so much that they had to get the fuck out of there? Like, they're not going to talk about that shit. Speaking about not talking about shit, some shit they did talk about on Friday. Terrible transition. Penelope Ford said she has torn her UCL and is out indefinitely. She will miss the Women's World Tag Team title tournament. So again, more injuries plaguing this tournament. Marina Shafir then announced she's teaming up with Megan Bain. Speaking of which, the Callis family. So they dropped this like painting, right? With all of them flexing. And I don't see Andrade in here. Unless this is Andrade over here. And it's just like a generic painting of like guy with beard that doesn't even really look like Andrade in case he comes back or whatever. But yeah, man, this faction expanding, like this is some NWO type shit. Moving along here, we have Booker T was asked about Mercedes Moné. And he was asked if he would let her win the title. And this is exactly, see, Booker T just confirming what I've fucking said on my show a billion times. But Booker's like, yeah, not even a shadow of a doubt, without even thinking about it. She wants to come into Reality of Wrestling. Drop me a line. Shoot, we'll get you in. We'll even put the title on you. Moné wants the Reality of Wrestling titles. Come on down here and get them. No problem. I'll sign it right now. So Booker, again, some people might get triggered. I mean, as the promoter, I don't know if I would fucking say that, basically like just stooging what you would do. You want to kind of hold your cards close. But again, Booker just always shoots straight, and he just comes at it from like a business perspective because he understands it's the wrestling business. And this is what I've told you guys a bunch. Like, it's not like these indies don't want Moné to come in. Now, Dave was saying she's getting 25 grand a show. Tony Khan, the best guy, is saying that she doesn't make money doing these indies, which obviously doesn't mean literally she makes zero. It means that like she's not making a lot of money, but 25 grand is a lot of money. So who knows who's right on that one. But to Tony Khan, I'm willing to lean in Dave's direction on that one, because to Tony Khan, 25 grand isn't a lot of money. But yes, like even Booker's like, dude, we would have you there in a second if you're wrestling indies now. But it shows you how unfortunate, like, And not to diss Monet, but for everyone saying like she elevates the titles and all this shit, she doesn't, man. She doesn't. She just helps these indies draw some houses. And if she drops these titles to their people at each of these indies, okay, maybe it will help elevate those titles and get people over. But what she's doing is just elevating herself in like the SMARC category, as far as she said it, like, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna wrestle in Japan, I'm gonna wrestle in the indies, and she's doing that. ROW's WWE ID'd. Like, she's wrestling she's at the indie level. You want to come to our indie show and win our indie title? Like, Sasha Banks was a mainstream main player in WWE at the tippy top, main evented WrestleMania, like, you know, and it just shows you the level, dude. For anybody who does this fucking AEW WWE comparison shit, it just shows you like she's welcome to come win a fucking ID title. And Monea would do it. I don't even know if she'd actually do it. I actually don't know if she would be down with doing, like, does she have the indie belt for any ID'd Fed? I actually don't know. But speaking of like the of feds and returns and wrestlers for AEW and whatnot, and I know this is going to trigger some fucking people, but Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho were together at the Tampa Bay Lightning versus Dallas Stars game. They're buddies. And Jackie Redmond was there as well doing work. And, you know, Kevin Owens is always he's a big, he goes to all these hockey games. So Jericho, the best friends, what was their crew called? You Just Made the List is what they were doing, all of that shit, right? That stuff.
You just made the list.
And yeah, dude, Jericho knows what he's doing. Okay. If he does stay in AEW, he knows that he's riling Tony Khan up to give him like the hugest deal ever to not go back to WWE. And Chris Jericho breaks his silence on his WWE status during an NHL on TNT appearance. So they talk to him, and listen to what he says here. I'll read it to you. He says, they ask him, and he says, it's hard to say, but I had a ladder match with Shawn Michaels, and that one was a really great kind of culmination to the good guy and bad guy dynamic. And then in AEW, where I work now, we got this guy, John Moxley. He's a little bit off his rocker. I'd say he's kind of like the Mark Messier of pro wrestling, to where you never really know what he's going to do. And he's got his death stare, and we always end up cut open and bleeding. But, you know, it's going to be exciting and physical, and people are into it. And that makes it more fun because, like you guys said, when you're playing 80 games a year, it's a little bit of a grind. But if you have a certain Boston tonight, this is going to be that's the same deal with wrestling as well, rivalries in hockey. But he says, where I work now is what he said, dude. Where I work now, AEW. And some people are running with that as like, what does that mean? You know, but I don't take that as a like, well, where I work right this moment, but I won't be soon. I take it more as him trying to actually help AEW. But again, he gets asked about Shawn Michaels and shit. He doesn't get asked about, in Jericho's mind, it's not about getting $12 million more dollars. At least I don't think so. To him, if he got $2 million a year for 3 years and he was like, oh, my name is up in the lights again, and people are not asking me about, you still what was it like in the World Wrestling Federation? You know, he's tired of not being considered among like the Cenas and everything. Or maybe I'm just like projecting that into his mind. Judas in his mind, Phil is in his mind. But hey, I wouldn't be mad at it. You guys already know my thoughts on all that. I think it'll happen sooner than later. Netflix is exploring Warner Bros. Bid, taps investment bank that handled Paramount Skydance. All roads lead to conservative money. So that's one thing. Netflix owning all of like WBD shit and having all of, you know, like the Batman shit and all of the Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes stuff and all that. And that could be cool, right? It's all under one plate. Like, you don't need HBO Max and shit. You just have Netflix. Boom. There you go, right? You got everything there. I don't know how far this will go. Obviously, Paramount fucking is not. I don't know if WBD's down to go with their shit. Netflix is exploring a bid. This is on the 30th, 2 days ago. Maybe there's been an update on this as well that I haven't seen. But yeah, it could be interesting. I just don't know. With the ratings that AEW's putting up, I just don't know if any company buys them and buys WBD, looks at AEW live on TNT and TBS, putting up the numbers they're putting up and going, yeah, we need to keep this around. Like, I just can't see that happening. And remember, too, like the Thirsty Thurstons point out that WBD likely owns, like, they're estimating 5% of the company roughly. So then whoever absorbs that absorbs it, right? So Netflix is in business with WWE. They're not gonna fucking they're gonna keep ownership of AEW. They're gonna sell that 5% to fucking TKO. They're gonna be like, hey, you guys want to buy this shit or what? Oh man, it's good. It's not looking too good, man. Moving along here. AEW Dynamite presents December 10th at the Gateway Center Arena, College Park, Georgia. They are set up for 1,987. The tickets distributed 1,290. So again, it's in December. They'll likely hit the 2,000 mark, but yeah, they're fighting to get to 2,000. Year over year over year, it's just worse and worse and worse. It's just not comparable to, again, when WWE is doing like 12,000, 11,000, 6,000, 10,000. Okay. It's like you're slowly, you're at this point. Are they going to cover that in the book? I doubt they fucking will. So that's what makes the book bullshit, in my humble opinion. But yeah, man. Speaking of interest, so what's happened here? Switchblade made a post saying, I call bullshit on these numbers in response to the pay-per-view. So AR Gold posts, Revolution equals 11,600, whatever. The pay-per-view buys are 137, 115, 126. So WrestleDream did 120,000 buys. No, it didn't. And it's so funny because I can read Dave like a book, man. I'm like, dude, I'd say about 90,000 for this one, minus 30%. Right? Minus about 30,000 buys off that bitch, I bet is what it's around. And either way, Switchblade says, I call bullshit on these numbers because Dave's the only source. And every publicly available AEW metric has cratered except for the one metric only Dave Meltzer reports. Even the Google search interest for pay-per-views and YouTube live pay-per-views are cratering in line with ratings and attendance, but somehow pay-per-views stable? Which, here's the thing. It wouldn't shock me if their pay-per-view was stable at 100,000 people, because we know that Collision could come on any time and there's about 100,000 who watch it. So, okay, it wouldn't shock me if those same 100,000 are so diehard that they'll buy every pay-per-view, but not 137,000 buys and shit. Like, that's not happening. But I just wrote subtract 30% automatically. If Meltzer's the only source, they're bullshit. And then Switchblade dropped this, and he always shows us the Google trends and the YouTube trends. He covers them, right? Why does YouTube matter? Well, because you can buy the pay-per-views on YouTube. There's a certain amount of numbers of people in the chat, and YouTube is they have the largest, they're the number one in, as far as Nielsen's concerned, in streaming. Like, they dominate the market, okay? Whether people believe that or not, it's just the facts, so you can look that up. So Switchblade says, below you can see Google search interest in AEW WrestleDream was the lowest in the short history of the pay-per-view, down 15.7% from last year and down 41% from 23. YouTube pay-per-view numbers were 1.7K, dude. The lowest of the year, yet somehow Meltzer says it did 120K pay-per-view buys. The pay-per-view numbers aren't real. So that's year over year, the interest in WrestleDream over time. And even if they did 120K pay-per-view buys, that is counting the Amazon that Meltzer says adds 30%. And they had to refund all of those on Amazon and then some. So Amazon lost their ass on that. AEW lost their ass on that. Oh, it still did the buys, though. Who cares if they refunded it? It's just like, it was an L, bro. It was a fucking L. That pay-per-view was an L. They need to do less pay-per-views. And honestly, I liked it better than All Out. I love fucking Joe. I thought the Bucks match was pretty solid. Went a little too long. It was decent for a pay-per-view. I like Tekla. The end of their match got a little botchy, I guess, but it was just an uninteresting show. It's not like, and they're sitting there talking like this is one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time, when the interest could not be lower for AEW right now. So yeah, Switchblade pulling the Google trends, which is quite interesting. Speaking of interest being the lowest it's been, man, AEW Dynamite on Wednesday scored its lowest audience and 18 to 49 rating, tied with last week in show history for its regular time slot. The show faced tough competition from Game 5 of the World Series. Dynamite averaged 459K viewers. So let's say we come out of the World Series, like it's just the World Series, Brian, year over year. We're seeing AEW not recover from this shit and it goes down and down and down further every year. How do they bounce back from this? What's the new normal for them? 500,000? Yeesh, man. Down 4% from last week with a 0.08 in the key demo. They ranked number 7. So the last 2 weeks in a row, they did their lowest key demo in time slot history in their regular time slot. Game 5 of the World Series topped the night with 14.3 million viewers, 0.376 in the demo. So year over year, it's down 27%, and the key demo was down 58% because it's become an old guy show. People grew up. It's been around about 6 years. There's fucking man children who were in their mid-20s who are now 31 and shit and maybe having kids and maybe they're into AEW, but it looks like they're all kind of just switching over to fucking WWE, and some of the people in their 30s maybe are kind of they stuck around with AEW, but it's just kind of, it's skewing older, I guess, now, like WWE did when it was in its worst fucking declines. Odd. And I think that's why we're seeing Dave Meltzer start to project criticisms that you'd give Tony Khan. He's starting to put them on Hunter Hearst Helmsley. And it's just, they're spiraling, right? Dusty Dave and Shrine Brian are spiraling. But I will say this, Brian, when he's on his own, he will go on these sicko rants. Again, he won't, when he's with Dave, he knows how to play his fucking role right. Like he just sits there, listens to Dave's bullshit. He does push back a little bit when Dave agrees that something isn't that good in AEW. Because we covered it, man. Last Dave Meltzer Dumb Moment of the Week, there were some base takes. There were some based Meltzer takes, right? And some based Brian takes. But this is another one right here. So trying, crying, lying, frying Brian starts calling he calls out the sickos, but at the same time he glazes them. Like he says, you're part of a small elite group of hardcore fans. It's this notion that, again, like poor people don't like AEW.
Poor people don't like AEW.
Or like you guys are incredibly high IQ, intelligent, sophisticated wrestling, elite wrestling fans. He's still like putting them over, but you guys are like super elite sickos. You have to let people in. It's not that, man. Everybody's done with it. And it's not that. It's like AIR golds and shit glazing AEW. It's just redacted sickos that are just annoying gnats online. Just don't go online. I haven't been going on Twitter and shit that much lately other than to get stuff for the show. I'm not like out there interacting as much. And it's just way better. You just enjoy wrestling more. I even enjoy AEW more. I'm not going to lie, because I can just fucking... this was good, this was bad. I don't need to hear it. You know what I mean? It's garbage. We all know most of it's garbage. Let's pick out some good shit. They're running with Joe. Okay, let's lock in. That's it. They got something there. Let's fucking go with Joe. There's no like saving it otherwise. And so there's no point in like even mixing it up really with any of these fucking sickos about it. It's more fun to argue about WWE shit and argue over storylines of WWE shit. But either way, though, like Brian will call out the sickos, but again, to say like they're this elite group of guys on fucking keeping people chained up in their basements and shit. What are you talking about? So let's hear Trying Brian here, and shout out Hook with a nice D12 shirt on.
You decided
purple pills, blue and yellow. What was the clean version? Blue and yellow, purple hills. That was it. Purple hills.
Show the world who you really are, but I already knew.
Yeah.
Because Joe had just replaced him.
Yep.
In the ops.
That's right.
This is one of those things where if you pay attention, you know the whole story, but if you don't, you're lost. I have to say this all the time because people just don't get it. The sickos don't get it. You sickos are right now part of a small elite group of really hardcore fans, okay? If you want this to succeed, it needs to be an open club. And an open club means that you need to explain to people not in the club what's going on. Some people are so violently against this idea. But
no, see, he's trying to present it like it's this open club and it's so fine and sophisticated. We just won't let people in. No, Redact, you turned everybody away. Mentally, this shit resonates more with mentally ill sycophants. They've run everybody off who tried. Even people like me who go to bat for the fucking show every time I try and point out what's good about it. It's not ever good enough. No one can admit Taco Bell commercials interrupting fucking shitty Jack Perry promos isn't garbage. Fishbowl drownings isn't garbage. That's what you guys want to claim. It's for kids, but then the Rizzler's on the show, but then a guy gets fucking, spike batted in the back. It's like you guys need to figure out a fucking identity over there and figure out what it's for and not look cheap. Like, it looks cheap too. When you watch AEW, it looks cheap. The entranceway, they don't do anything special for pay-per-views. The fucking ropes, it looks like they're trying to look like WWE. And they are, with the white ropes and all that. You flip the channel, you see the white ropes and all that, and you see Edge in the ring, and you might think it's WWE. That's why they fucking do that, man. And it's just, there's nothing interesting story-wise. It's not about the sickos need to let more people in. It's that. But WWE fans, for the longest time, were shitty as well. Think about the diehard, like every fan, even the TNA holes, they used to go hard in the paint. It's not a matter of that. It's make a good fucking show. Make a good fucking show. Yes, we need to denounce the sickos, tell them that but don't glaze them and be like, you guys are in a special club of rare human beings who fucking just understand this level. And the reason it's not growing is because you guys won't let others in. No, it's not that. It's because it fucking sucks. And then that. And then there's that too. But it's not like you're these special elitist poor people don't like AEW. It's because, like, it's just people try and then you just get turned off by it. Or you say anything critical and that's not allowed. You can't say anything critical about anybody. That's not allowed. And it's always all these other reasons other than Tony Khan is not good at creative. He just isn't a good creative mind. It's just that simple. And neither is Dave Meltzer. And Dave Meltzer's here fantasy booking this shit and Tony's listening to him and asking AI and all this shit. That's what it is, man. And yes, the fans are a turnoff online. Otherwise, you don't give a fuck. Who doesn't like to go to the matches and drink a few beers? Yeah, I'll do it. AEW, JCW, whatever Fed is going on. Those people have been run off too because they've gone to AEW shows and the sickos are fucking. We all have seen the stories on Reddit and shit. Anyway,
you have to do this if you want to grow. If you want to stay a small,
they don't, and that's the thing too. Brian doesn't get that the sickos don't want to grow. They don't want to. They've said it. They'll argue that to you. I don't care if AEW goes out of business. Why do I care? I'm not okay, then that's exactly it. Like, you're just a wrestling fan. You're not a fan. And it's so funny because the projection from the sicko side is Fed fans aren't real fans, real wrestling fans. They're just fans of the Fed. No, it's the opposite, man. It's the complete opposite. It's the complete opposite. AEW fans are primarily just AEW, they're just fans of fucking. Or it's not the complete opposite. What I'm saying is that it's just a projection. AEW fans, they don't care if AEW goes out of it. They'll just watch wrestling highlights. They'll watch Ring of Honor. They'll watch New Japan. They'll watch any other Fed. Most WWE fans are just WWE fans, I would say, and not pro wrestling in general. So that assessment's right. But it's just like, it's the whole Google mentality when everything started, whereas WWE will educate you on this shit. In that way, it is like AEW fans pretending to be elitist and putting their nose up in the air and being like, oh, you just don't like wrestling. You need to Google all this stuff. But at the same token, it's like they don't really give a fuck. It's not like AEW's doing this like high-end fucking anything. The production, the way the people are presented, the storylines, none of the characters feel larger than life. And any of the ones that do, it was like Punk. But he came from WWE. Punk could have debuted in fucking JCW like Vince Russo, and people would have lost their shit, you know? He's like bigger than WWE. He's bigger than just AEW.
Club, a little niche wrestling promotion that's number 2, and you want to slowly get, less and less popular because, slowly, here's the thing with any business. You're always going to have a churn. You have to replace the fans that slowly
but they don't care about the business. That's the thing.
If you don't do that, you're going to have this small club that gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And, people joke, like, who was it that said, if TNA gets, the CW, they'll immediately be the number 2 or whatever. They ain't going to be the number 2. They'll be far and away still number 3. But, like,
how?
You're not guaranteed being number 2 forever.
So here's the thing, too. Like, what does that mean that they won't be number 2? So if their TV ratings are better and their pay-per-views sell more, is that not number 2? Will they have more money? Why? Because Tony Khan's family owns a football team? They have more money? Like, I just don't understand. So here we go.
You've got to continue to grow. Even you may not ever be number 1, but to stay number 2, you also have to continue to grow. So anyway, the stuff like this, which is okay.
Like, so AEW grows to a place where TNA grows to a place where they're number 2. as far as ratings and attendance at pay-per-views, but then they're not number 2. I don't even get what
You
he's
get
saying
it
there.
if you're like a sicko, hardcore, watch everything. You know, that's fine for this small group, but you've got to fill people in. You've got to get new fans. Don't tell me it's like a television show, because any other normal show you can go back and binge watch from season 1.
There you go. Thank you. And people get mad at that. Like SmackDown, they replay the shit that was going to happen last week. Why would you want to waste time watching that? Because most people aren't just watching every single fucking thing. And if it wants to dedicate itself to that, okay. Those are like morbidly online people who don't have a shitload of money to spend, likely, if they're fucking just sitting there obsessively watching every single thing. Like Dave Meltzer saying he watches every CMLL, every AAA, keeps his eye on the European wrestling and Japan and every single thing. How is that even possible?
No one's going back to, you're not going to start deciding you like AEW and decide you're going to go back and binge watch from 2019. It's not going to happen. Fill people in with all of your stories.
Exactly. The weekly TV show. So based Bryan, I mean, trying Bryan, I suppose. And as him just stating the thing that a lot of people have said, you need to fill people in. It's about show formatting. It's not just about, like, AEW's dropped some pretty cool vignettes for people like Tony Storm and shit like that, but it's not just about that either. That's just one aspect. There's no through line of any show. You typically don't get, like, this guy shows up, he talks to this guy later in the show. He's distraught, so he talks to this guy, and then this guy confronts him, and then he challenges him to a match, and then, like, you don't get anything like that. You watch an episode of Raw, you have characters throughout that you recognize, and you get caught up on what's been going on and what characters you should know about. And it's the same reason why before you turn on an episode of Peacemaker or whatever the fuck, it shows you a highlight of, like, the key things of the episode you're about to watch specifically, and then you'll get the rest of the context later. They do that for, like, every fucking major show. And why is that? It's because you need to remember everything, twists and turns you're going to take. And yeah, Dave just won't accept that. Bryan is at least saying that, but he has to say it when Dave isn't there, because Dave won't accept that. Well, no, it's got to be Tony Khan. The matchmaking spectacular. It's through the roof, Bryan.